Deputy Speaker, and I'm delighted to get up today to make a contribution to the take note motion of the 2018-19 budget. And in doing so, the Victorian budget will deliver on three fundamentals: new skills, good jobs, more schools, and indeed better roads for every Victorian. And it's a budget that has been framed in a way that ensures that all parts of the state get a decent share of the budget 2018-2019. I am, of course, Speaker, also reminded of the really excellent forward estimates that the Treasurer has placed in the budget, which speaks so eloquently of the real strength of the Victorian economy going forward. And I just want to commend the work of the Treasurer and indeed the Minister for Finance and of course the Premier himself for the leadership that he has shown in framing what by any measure is a really excellent outcome for the Victorian community. But I want to particularly focus today my contribution, not surprisingly, Deputy Speaker, on my own electorate in Richmond. So families in Richmond will have good schools close to their homes, with a share of the $1.3 billion for school allocations across the state. In this year's budget includes $500,000 to design a new senior campus for Collingwood College and Fitzroy High School on the Fitzroy Gasworks site. I don't need to remind colleagues here in the House of the history of Fitzroy High School, save and except to just indicate that Fitzroy High School was in fact the only high school closed by the Kennett government that actually ever reopened. And can I say it is going absolutely gangbusters in what is a really unique relationship of twinning between Collingwood College and Fitzroy High School, where there is a shared curriculum between the two schools. A very, very unique partnership, and one that will be further consolidated by the opportunities that are going to be presented at the Fitzroy Gasworks site, where the $500,000 will be going to the planning of a senior high school. And that will be conducted, as you would expect, through a broad community consultation and conversation between the school communities as to what the framing of that senior high school might look like. It may be a senior high school that is a 10, 11, 12. It may be a 10, 11, 12, 13 school, or it may be a specialist school. And that's yet to be determined, but it is a fantastic commitment by the government. An extraordinary budget commitment of $8.28 million to upgrade facilities at Abbotsford Primary School. So those who know Abbotsford Primary School, it's a lovely little school just tucked off Victoria Street. And the beauty of this public school is that it is in fact a bilingual school. It teaches children in Chinese and indeed Vietnamese as well, so that when a child goes through that school from prep to grade 6, by the time they get to grade 6, they will be completely fluent in a second language. And what a power to have, what a unique asset these children will have, being able to not only be bilingual certainly in Chinese and or Vietnamese, but also have a pathway through to extend their Chinese language skills at Richmond High School. And I'll come to Richmond High School in a couple of minutes. So they'll be able to transition right through from prep to year 12, and imagine the power that's going to be available to those young people coming out of secondary school, being able to look to the north to our major trading partner in China and be able to negotiate their way there. It is just an extraordinary opportunity in my electorate. The budget also includes $200,000 for upgrades at Richmond Primary School, a whopping $1.08 million for landscaping works at the Great Richmond West Primary School, and $550,000 to upgrade and modernise facilities at Spenceley Street Primary School. So I was at Spenceley Street Primary School on Sunday, where they were having their harvest fete, and I have to say I actually brought some very, very nice apricot jam homemade, which I had some yesterday, and also a very lovely, no, not chutney, some tomato sauce. So that'll see its way clear very soon. So, but again, a great public school. That they are so pleased to have the $500,000 that will assist them with further classroom space, which will be part of a specialist science program for the students there. And I know that amount of money is really going to have a fantastic impact for that school. We also have provided funds to purchase land to extend Clifton Hill Primary School, making sure that great school can keep meeting the needs of a growing population. I was also Deputy Speaker. My apologies, Deputy Speaker, I got a bit carried away there. I had the pleasure of being with the Minister for Education only yesterday at Richmond High School. A $44 million investment in a senior secondary school for boys and girls in Richmond, where in fact we celebrated what's called the topping out of the school. So the major construction of the school is now complete, and now it'll be clad and obviously all of the internals will be done. They're well on schedule with this, and the beautiful thing was that the first intake of grade 7 students who are living temporarily opposite in the sports facilities came over with us to go for the first time up onto the roof of this 4-storey spectacular facility and actually see what the bones of what their school was going to be like. They were absolutely beside themselves. I was so excited to be the first group of school leaders to come and see what their school is going to be like. And I've got to say, when you're up there on the 4th floor of that school, it is unbelievably spectacular. Views to the city like you can't imagine. It's just views to the MCG, to Collingwood and down into Richmond. I'm just thrilled with the commitment that our government has made. It's an enormous amount of money, $44 million, but gee, is there any better investment that a government can make but in public education? So this has been a fantastic outcome. I'm delighted that the Minister for Housing has provided $22.4 million, which will fund the installation of smoke detectors, sprinklers and smoke separation barriers in common areas on all of our public housing high-rise estates. So as members would know, we've got 47 of the very high 20-plus storey public housing towers. Members, of course, will also be aware that there was in fact a small fire in the Napier Street towers in Fitzroy. Thankfully, and I'm looking at my colleague, the member for Frankston, what the fire brigade did there was absolutely extraordinary. You know, running into this fire early on in the morning and did just a magnificent job. But we've learnt the lessons of what we need to do in terms of not only ensuring, obviously all of the flats are sprinkled themselves, the apartments, but it is in fact the common areas and the balconies and the congregating areas on the ground floor need to be sprinkled as well. And that's a great initiative by Minister Foley, and I know I can speak on behalf of my residents just how grateful they are for that extra bit of security in, God forbid, a fire occurring. Yeah, absolutely life-saving, as the member for Frankston indicates. In relation to the Yarra River, so this has been groundbreaking legislation. Deputy Speaker, the landmark Yarra River Protection Willupgin Birramung Muron Act 2017 obviously has now passed the Parliament, and we all remember what a great day that was when the Wurundjeri elders came in when we introduced the bill into the House, and when they spoke in their own language. I mean, they were so pleased that the government were in fact listening to them and were respectful of their ambitions. Their ambitions for the sacred Yarra River. And in that context, the Act does enshrine a new statutory body, the Birrarung Council, to act as an independent voice for the river and enables the declaration of parklands and open space along the river as a Greater Yarra Urban Park. This is groundbreaking legislation. It's certainly the first in Australia and possibly one of the first in the world, and I'm delighted that we've had the opportunity, both as a parliament, to ventilate these issues and to get actually bipartisan support for protection of the Yarra River and acknowledging the voice of the Wurundjeri people who speak for the Yarra River. And $1.25 million has been put into the budget for the Yarra River Action Plan going forward, and there'll be successive commitments over the out years as well. Community sport did not miss out, certainly not from this government. $3 million for Ryan's Reserve to upgrade 4 ageing courts in the old pavilion, $3 million for Yarra Bend Park to provide a pavilion to allow for netball courts, and $2 million to upgrade facilities for women's football at the home of the spiritual home of the Magpies, Victoria Park, which is just fantastic. And I know for women's sport, having been down at Victoria Park only very recently for some local football and talking to the women who play down there, their facilities are a disgrace, where their change facilities are in fact the umpire's room. So, I mean, it's just not acceptable, and I know just how important that investment has been, particularly for women's football at Victoria Park. I just want to briefly touch upon, there's so many places I could go here, but I just wanted to touch upon the record investment that Minister Foley got in a budget of $705 million to address mental illness and addiction. This is really a landmark commitment by the Andrews government. It includes 6 dedicated crisis hubs in emergency departments, including, of course, at St Vincent's Hospital. And I had the pleasure of being at St Vincent's Hospital only a little over a week ago with Minister Foley when we announced the mental health hub that will be part of the casualty ward at St Vincent's Hospital. The reason for that, of course, is when you've got people who are coming in severe crisis with psychiatric or drug and alcohol issues, you have to manage them differently to other casualty ward patients. So a whole area will be dedicated to ensuring that these people are in fact triaged in a way that addresses their needs but does not disrupt other patients who, of course, would be seeking or being serviced in the casualty ward. I'll just conclude, can I say, with the extraordinary commitment to people, training and jobs. $172 million to make priority TAFE courses free, giving more residents, indeed my residents, a chance to be able to train at TAFE and get the right skills they need for a good job. 30 priority TAFE courses, 18 pre-apprenticeship courses will be made free. Fantastic. With more than 30,000 new TAFE places will be funded right across the state. So really, this budget, I think, speaks to what is at the core of why we are the Australian Labor Party, because it talks to all the fundamentals that are important to our community. Whether it's in education, whether it's in education, whether it's in jobs, whether it's in training, whether it's in those crucial social safety nets such as the funding that has been provided, Deputy Speaker, for mental health. These are the reasons why I am so passionate about this budget and so passionate about the fact that the budget strikes the right note. Strong economic growth for the state, very strong surpluses going forward, net debt to GDP very, very satisfactory, and I think from our point of view, a budget that is actually shared in regional Victoria, in your part of the world, Deputy Speaker, as much as it is shared across metropolitan Melbourne, because we know that this is a government that actually governs for the entire state. Whether it's, of course, in the massive investments that are being made in public transport as well, that link our communities together. I'm so proud to be a part of a government that truly does govern for all Victorians. Thank you.